call this meeting public session to order. If we could, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have minutes to approve for the executive session from August 12th. If I could please have a first.
I move to approve the minutes of the August 12th Board of Ed meeting.
And a second? Second. Thank you. Any adjustments, edits, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And for the members of the public who may be watching us on our broadcast, I would like to say we're going to go a little out of order from our typical procedure. Usually this time we do public comment, but we do have members of the Weston Police Department joining us this evening to talk about a quick security update before we kick off the school year. So we will hold public comment until after their presentation. Chief and Captain, if you'd like to join us at the table, please. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. For those of you who are watching or don't know me, I'm Chief Henyon, Chief of the Weston Police Department, and I have with me my Executive Officer, Captain Matt Brodacki, who is, again, my Executive Officer and oversees the school resource officers who are here and embedded in the schools. I thank everyone for the opportunity to come here tonight and talk briefly. If there's any questions from the board or the public, the captain and I are here to answer those questions. Again, we've been working with Dr. McCursey and his staff through the break with Mike Rizzo, new assistant superintendent, to make sure that our security plans are up to date, that the police response to the school systems and presence in the schools is adequate, and just to make sure that we're poised and ready to go through the next school year. Our SROs were here a few minutes ago, both Officer McGowan from the high school and Officer Kim from the middle school, answering any questions anyone may have. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Brodacki to talk about some of the particulars for this school year.
Hi everyone, welcome, and thank you for having us this evening. I just want to touch briefly that we've reviewed our annual plans, and incrementally we update them according to the needs of the community. This year we do have SROs in both the middle school and the high school, which will be embedded in each school, as well as an officer on campus of the lower level schools. And tomorrow, with the first day of school, we're excited to kick off another year, and we should have between 6 to 8 police officers on campus between myself and the chief. So if you see us out in the front steps, just wave and we'll gladly answer any questions as we start the year. I would say, I know I mentioned earlier, there's no constellation of standards as to how we achieve security in the district. This year, we incrementally have improved technology, but it is a blended system. So we have a great group of police officers, security specialists, even maintenance personnel you'll see around campus helping to keep traffic calm. And then technology of hardening structures, cameras, and monitoring to make sure that the children can come to school and have a safe and enjoyable experience. So with that, I would open it up if there's any questions for us, or we can gladly, I don't know if there's anything specific that we can address.
I would just add before the board joins in, we will be having 2 public forums. We're juggling those with the busy September evenings. We may push them late in September or October, but we have 2 public forums on security matters. Roughly defined, there'll be 3 parts of those now. There'll be a portion that the Weston Police will lead on all the support protection services they provide to us and up to the level of detail they can. Part of that will be what we can talk about in terms of the hardening of the targets. This is the kind of talk superintendents never thought they'd have to get into, but in 2019, 2020, we have to talk about these types of things. We then will move into a bit, because it is different, what our security specialists do, what the Weston Police do, and our security specialists should not be confused. Though all but one are retired officers, but that is a very different role, technically and by design, who they report to. We then will go into a bit of training that a number of our, both the SROs, but some of our administrators did with the FBI last spring. We'll go into what that FBI training entailed in terms of risk and crisis assessment. Some of that dealt with the third topic, which is communication. It's important for me as superintendent, some maybe somewhat with Chief Henyon, but certainly me as superintendent, put out some templates, examples of what families might see when, in terms of certain levels of communication. And, for example, get into when we do and don't talk about, do we know if they're weapons? Because there's a very legal difference in terms of FERPA protection when we are, and that defines often whether we say there was a weapon or not. But that'll be two of those, the exact same program, at different times to allow full opportunity. I also, so the board knows, I met this Friday with two of the students who presented to you right before the season, the last school year ended. You might remember there were several students talking about mental health. They've been meeting actively with the administrators at the high school, and there were two who presented on security issues. They had also met at the high school, but most suddenly sat with me Friday. They're planning to start a club or some other ongoing group at the high school. They're two rising juniors. It was a very, very good meeting to sort of talk with them about their interests, but their interest is trying to bring this broader out into the high school community. So let me stop. That might help frame it a little bit before the board answers any questions that you may want to entertain here in public.
Do you guys have any questions that you want to pose? I think, Matt, this is a good opportunity, whether parents are watching now or whether they're going to watch one of the tapes later. Just a very brief overview of, again, what we have in place. SROs in what building, a full-time officer looking at what building, and the rotation, and just kind of like what they do. Just a very brief overview for our new families who may not be aware of what we do have.
Sure. So we do know that on the higher level schools that threats typically come from inside the school, that it might be a student who is either disgruntled or a former student, and we know in the lower level schools that those threats typically come from an external factor trying to gain access through the front of the school. So our theory is that if we're responding, that we've already failed, that we're too late. So I think we're in working with Mr. Rizzo and his team of counselors, we've embedded officers in the higher level schools to really build that communication with the students. We achieved that through training, joint training with the FBI and Yale. They had 4 trainings in the past year, and then over the summer months, both of our SROs went down to the NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers, and attained their level 3 status. So what that is essentially is a week of training, learning the most common factors and flags to look for, and some of the best training tips on how to interact with students within those healthy boundaries. So we're trying to identify children at risk and become a friend before it becomes a problem within those healthy boundaries. So I think both Officer McGowan, who's embedded in the high school, who's here, I apologize, they were over checking out Jason's new office in the front of the school. So, and Officer Kim, who is the middle school officer, and you'll notice when you walk into the middle school now, when you see that frosted glass directly to the left, that's Officer Kim's new office. So they're just finishing it today. But a broad overview of that is so you have both Officer McGowan and Officer Kim embedded in the schools and actively teaching. They also help on the lower level schools for significant programs. Joe will go down to the elementary school and read to the children in the elementary school. And then the officer that is working as the campus police officer for that detail is essentially patrolling that 1 mile, but his vehicle and his duties for that particular day are very specially trained to deal with a threat on the outside of a school trying to make egress into the school. That coupled with the Regional Technical Investigation Unit that is on campus right next to the Board of Education. We have anywhere from 1 to 4 police officers on campus, but working in a technical capacity for the region. So I know for new parents, it can be scary for all of us. I have children myself, 3 of them, to drop them off at the first day of school. But I feel good looking in the mirror and knowing collaboratively that we have such a great team that we're incrementally moving forward with each year, and this year proves no different. We're continuing to move that ball forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys?
I just have a quick question about drugs.
Sure.
And I have young children, so I don't really know exactly in terms of high school the level of checks you do. But when I grew up, having those random checks with dogs, they were there, and we all knew about it. So I'm very used to kind of that happening. What proactive measures do you guys take to
Yeah,
check?
it's a very hot
screen?
topic. I mean, certainly we want children to come to school and not have the feeling that the police are checking and having metal detectors. It really isn't conducive to our environment here in Weston.
Right.
But we do periodically, once or twice a year, have an unannounced check of the parking lot of the student vehicles. We'll tell the children that we're doing that ahead of time so that they just understand, and it's a proactive measure we utilize so that they're not expecting to be able to bring their drugs safely into an educational environment and have them in or on the campus, so
Okay.
that we do inject.
So unless you're tipped off, lockers are not checked?
No, yeah, this gets into what's board policy versus
Yeah.
Weston Police. The board policy, and it was something I inherited here, is canine searches in the parking lots and canines only brought into, or other search techniques only brought into the schools when there's a definite known threat, and that would then be a policy discussion if the board wants to change that. We now have shifted to, at the beginning of the year, we announced all families, we do use the canines, and then it's a surprise after that. That's been a change. So, but it's done, that piece is done in coordination with Weston Police, but even the car searches, if something identified, the search is done by an administrator, and there are legal reasons for that, which Captain Burdacki could speak to, but it's done in very close coordination with the West administrators, because it's the actual board policy.
Okay.
One of the things to keep an eye on is with the searches in the vehicles, is that driven various things into the buildings more. That's something to be thought,
Right.
obviously I'm thinking about that, or I wouldn't have just said it. And others on my team are thinking about that, so we're aware of that. But I think you as a board have to grapple with whether you want unannounced regular searches in schools by canines. That would be pretty uncommon right now in this area. But if that's a clarification for you,
Yeah, I think
hope
we
that
have the
helps.
parameters, obviously, of the Fourth Amendment. We want to respect those parameters, but I think it's been effective. That coupled with when there's a dance or a prom and they're checking for alcohol, as well as proactive educational measures from our SROs about drug usage, the purchase of it, the dangers of overdosing, have all really, in the last 12 months, been germane to the situations we're seeing with children struggling. When they do struggle is the drug usage, so we're trying to address it in that manner.
Thank you.
All right. Mike, is there anything from the standpoint of pupil services with related to, processes, procedures, your team's putting in place to support students as it dovetails with this?
No, I would say that, first of all, we are very grateful for the collaboration, and it's just worth noting that publicly. Secondly, we have worked closely with the police department on in a couple of different areas, one of them being threat assessment, and we're continuing to formalize those processes. The training that we did with the FBI alongside our police department was very helpful, and that's been shared with the entire leadership team, and looking at that information together and how it impacts us in the schools. And then finally, with pupil services in particular, the basis for staying ahead of these situations is always through our connections with students, and we do make great efforts and take a lot of pride in the fact that we are able to individualize, personalize, and make those connections with our students so that every student has an adult within the school that they feel they can go to, and actively, on the part of the adults in the school, trying to make sure that we seek out those connections and help students make those connections. So we take that very seriously, and it's an ongoing effort.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Captain Chief and our two SROs, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It can't be said enough how much we appreciate the collaboration we have with your department and the support that we feel we get from you. And please, you guys that are in our buildings every day, please, if you see something that you want to bubble up to us as far as how anything we can do to support what you're doing, please let us know. You're an invaluable asset to us and greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now? Two of them probably are. Oh, are the police? No.
No.
Mm-mm. And at this time, with our slightly rearranged agenda, we will have our public comment. If you would like to speak, I'll ask for you to please just raise your hand, and then I'll acknowledge you, and you may come to the table, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Again, the most frustrating part of this process is it is public comment. It is not a public exchange or public discourse with the board, but we do listen. So at this time, if anybody would like to take advantage of public comment, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our new business.
So under new business, typically Louis Bray handles this, but he's out for medical reasons. The first is retirements. Louis, under his internal counsel, is recommending that we give you these names, but not going forward to provide you the letters. If necessary, we could do that. We have one retirement. That's Carl Moeller, PE Health, who's retiring. And we do already have very strong replacement for Carl, so while that's a loss for us, we are pleased that we've been able to replace Carl in a strong way.
Ellen, can you craft the motion for us?
Yeah, did we gonna get motions
Yeah,
in?
we don't have it, do we?
Yeah.
Move that the Board of Education accept the retirement of Carl Mueller, physical education teacher, with thanks for his service.
May I have a second, please? I'm sorry, Taffy? Ruby, sorry. You guys sound alike, so when I'm trying to take notes, and I'm like... Any further conversation, discussion? All in favor? Great, thank you. Resignations?
And again, I'll play Louis Bray here, and I apologize for the lack of motions on these materials, but we'll lean on our veteran board members here, and we won't let that happen again. I apologize. This one will be a little more complicated. There are 3 resignations. The first is Brenda Steensma, French Middle School, and I'll spell this out, S-T-E-E-N-S-M-A, Brenda. Then Christina Donegan, Spanish teacher, D-O-N-I-G-I-A-N, Christina. And third is John Fitzgerald, Music Middle School, Fitzgerald, F-I-T-Z-G-E-R-A-L-D. And the 3 have resigned.
Move that the Board of Education accept the resignations of Brenda Steensma, Christina Donegian, and John Fitzgerald.
May I have a second, please? Thank you, Taffy. Any further comment, discussion? All in favor? Great, thank you. Mr. Rudel?
So this is the final fiscal year 2019 financial report with an adjusted budget of $51,954,365. We did spend $51,946,667 with remaining encumbrances of $4,365, leaving a year-end balance of $3,333. There are transfers totaling $232,256 for approval. with 14 in excess of $5,000. Those transfers include $28,240 for accumulated sick time payout due to the elimination of the special education drivers, $12,632 for out-of-district transportation, $7,273 for an additional bus run at the middle school due to the additional day at the middle school due to the sewage bill, $17,578 for special ed legal fees, $16,038 for OT-PT services, $10,187 for summer hours for pupil personnel staff in preparation of summer school, $15,813 for septic pumping and repairs at the Xenon plant, $9,455 for tree removal and tree trimming campus-wide, $6,955 for installation of electrical outlets throughout the schools for the disbursement of the copiers, $6,092 for repairs of the chiller at Hurlbut due to the delay in the capital project, $6,000 for additional work on the tennis courts, $9,084 for substitute teacher coverage at the high school, $6,332 for accumulated sick time payout for a retiree at the high school, and then $5,732 for extra classes for teachers covering a teacher on a leave of absence. And then if you move to the Internal Services Fund, we end with a net change of $956, leaving a fund balance of approximately $1.5 million.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move that the Board of Education adopt the final, accept the final fiscal report for fiscal year 18-19,
As presented by Mr. Rich Rudel.
as presented by Mr. Rich Rudel.
May I have a second? Thank you. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? Thank you. Rich, I do just want to, I know you're going to give us a first, but this was your last year-end fiscal report for us. I mean, that's a momentous occasion.
Yep, correct.
All right. I just couldn't let that one go without like actually saying it. And now for the first year for 2019.
Sure. So this is the first financial report of fiscal year 20. The fiscal year 20 budget is $53,073,710. Year-to-date expenditures currently at $2.4 million, encumbrances to date of $14.9 million, anticipated expenditures of $35.8 million, leaving a projected deficit of $250,700. The deficit is related to additional special education paras needed beyond budget. There are transfers totaling $236,719 for approval, with 8 in excess of $5,000. The first is $91,360 for repairs to Revson Field that the board had approved at a previous meeting, $5,284 for playground repairs, $21,923 for a WTA ERIP payment, $34,005 to reallocate budget funds from the district-wide account to various salary accounts for board-approved unaffiliated salary increases, $28,495 again to reallocate budgeted funds from the district-wide account to the various salary accounts for Board of Ed approved unaffiliated salaries, $14,300 for 2 additional copiers, and then $13,596 for migration of servers to Novus. If we move to the Internal Services Fund, there currently is a net change of $49,759. No funds to date have been deposited into the Internal Services Fund. We are planning on a deficit of approximately $300,000 this year in this fund as part of the Board of Ed approved budget due to the ASME early retirement incentive plan and then the insurance buyout, which did not proceed. So that leaves a fund balance of approximately $1.48 million, which we would anticipate this to decline to approximately $1.2 million by the end of the fiscal year.
Rich, can you just talk for the newer members a little bit about the internal services and
Sure.
its beginnings and what it's intended for?
So the Internal Services is a fund used to cover medical claims or dental claims. When you're self-insured, the claims can spike up or down depending on the health of your individual covered employees. So the district moved to the state partnership plan last year. So we do not expend funds for medical out of the Internal Services Fund, but we do have a self-insured dental plan. So dental expenses do get paid out of the internal services fund. So it is a separate fund from your operating budget, but you do have funds in the operating budget that act as a deposit into that fund to cover expenses either up or down depending on how those claims materialize throughout the year.
Guys, any other questions regarding the first update? With that, could I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the fiscal year 1920 first financial report as presented by Mr. Rudel.
May I have a second, please? Thank you, Taffy. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. And I would like to point out, we do have a special guest in the audience this evening, Mr. Phil Cross, who is recently appointed as our new Director of Finance and Operations, is joining us for the evening. It's a great pleasure meeting you, and we look forward to you joining our team. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Ken's going to do the staffing, but let me just reiterate, particularly with Phil here, that the board is very, very active at the committee level. So the finance committee, just the two reports that were just presented, a lot of very detailed discussion at the committee meetings. So there's a very strong, healthy committee process with the Board of Education of Weston, where the real digging in, intensive work happens, which does help the efficiency of these meetings. But I just want to assure you, there is good scrutiny right down to every dollar. So very, very healthy situation for us. And I've asked Ken to do the staffing update again. Louis Bray would typically do that, but he is out. So
Sure, I'm happy to do that. We've had a busy hiring season since last April. And just give you a little bit of background on what goes into the hiring process. With each posted position, certified staff member, a teacher, we begin with our building administrators, curriculum leaders, doing a paper screening and culling down several applicants so that they would bring them in for a comprehensive interview. And then from there, when we have finalists, we'll have a second interview, and ultimately with the one or two final candidates have a demonstration lesson where either Mike, myself, or Louis would come to observe as well. So we do want to see them in front of students, and sometimes when we have openings in the summertime, principals will pull together with the help of the PTO some students, and we give them a little food to get them out of bed, and they help us out. So that feedback is critical. And then once principal makes a recommendation to the superintendent after doing a thorough check of references, then central office will meet with the candidate and make a final decision. And we have just a great group that we introduced at convocation yesterday. And in your packet, you have pictures and bios of all but one of them. We had our last hire, we're fully hired with all certified teachers ready to go, so fully staffed. We do have some non-certified lunch aides and things of that nature that we have to, still fill, but all students will have their teacher in front of them for the start of school tomorrow. I encourage you to go through those bios. Ryan puts those together every year. It's just a wealth of experience, range of experience, and I'd have to check here, but we did have two new ESS, Effective School Solutions, consultants who have joined our staff as well. We don't hire those individuals, but we do have some input into that process, and so we've welcomed them on board as well.
Thank you. Any questions, guys? Summer facilities update?
So we had a number of projects throughout the summer. We did have a handout for everybody available. The Xenon plant control system upgrade. All the engineering work is actually complete. The only thing waiting for completion is internet access into the Xenon plant. It will not affect the first day of school. They'll run the plant as they ran it in the previous years, and once that access is complete, it will allow them to use the new control system. The cafeteria lighting repair at the high school has been complete. The library lighting repair at the high school has also been complete. Lightning protection at the intermediate and high school has been complete. The oil tank removal at the middle school and high school has been complete. The middle school lockers were completed at about 7:45 tonight, and those are complete.
No more trucks broken down?
Nope, we're good. Emergency lighting services has been complete throughout the campus. Paving the gravel lot at the high school has been complete. The initial decision to pave most of School Road was deferred by the selectmen, but they did pave that bend by the soccer field at the high school. The Hurlbut boiler replacement, the asbestos remediation is complete both at the South House and the Senior Center. The piping and the condensate tank work will continue through probably the end of September, but all that will happen after hours or on the weekend. The chiller was deferred by the building committee. The high school and Hurlbut water heater replacements were also deferred by the building committee. The Hurlbut playground was complete, and there was a ribbon cutting ceremony this afternoon. The tennis court cracks have been repaired. We are expecting the company to come back out tomorrow to just touch up the paint on the court. Boiler cleaning has been completed, except at the South House. That will happen in the next couple weeks as well. The roof repair was slightly delayed by the building committee, though they did award some work anticipated to begin in late September at the high school and the intermediate school. The fire alarm upgrade is complete with the exception of the firewall in the attic of Hurlbut. That will happen in the fall. The furniture removal, wall repair, carpet replacement, and special education room in the high school and C13 has been complete. The bathroom repair at the high school has been complete. The door repair at the WIS has been complete. The middle school Wi-Fi is near complete but still ongoing. Access control has been completed. The copier relocation has been completed. Installation of carpet in B4, a music room at the high school, has been completed. Installation of a wall in the conference room at the middle school has been completed. Revson Field, the irrigation has been evaluated and repaired. They've torn up the warning track and the infield as well. Removed the wood chips that were in right field. Trees have been taken down. The dugouts have been painted and power washed. The concession stands have been painted and power washed. The next step would be for the leveling of the infield, which they're in the process of doing. Expectation is sometime in mid-September, weather permitting, that Diamond Landscapes will finish that. Installation of the hood vent in the art room at the high school is partially done. The snorkel for the vent is expected at the end of September. The annex, ramp, and banister has been painted, and that's complete. The playground repairs, which were primarily at the old North House playground, have been complete, and new mulch has been put down on all the playgrounds. The sinkhole at the North House softball field was seen to be damaged water drains underneath. That has been repaired, and they have backfilled the area. They just have to seed and hay it. But we'll keep the construction fence until the seed and hay is actually done. But that work has been completed as well. And then the replacement of the tile floor in the main entrance as you first walk into Hurlbut has also been completed.
And once again, a super Herculean list.
Yeah.
There are a lot of check marks on here. It's amazing.
Rich, I just had a quick question on number 30 with the North House softball field. So the Meet the Teacher was today, and all of the equipment was still there. Will the equipment be removed for tomorrow's
We do
first
expect
day?
it to be removed tomorrow, so there won't be any on the street when traffic
Okay,
begins in the morning.
okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Also, Rich, regarding 26, Revson, since it was such a hot topic last year, I think it would be useful to just give us a sense of what percentage complete it is. So I know it's a process, and it's not complete, but are we 50% of the way there? Are we
I'd say we're-
75?
I'd say we're around 50% of the way there, so they still have to level the outfield. They will have to put down the Partech clay, which is the new clay on the infield, and then resod the infield. And then they want to just go over the field one more time and then apply new clay also to the middle school softball field. So they're probably around 50% of the way.
You
You'll-
said end of September, you think it'll be?
Middle to end of September, depending
Okay.
on weather.
Thank you.
And Dr. McCursey, will we, with some of these outstanding projects, will we revisit at our next meeting?
When you say the outstanding, meaning the,
Incomplete.
well, a number of them tie to the building committee, and that's something we'd have to, those are conversations with the building committee. But we will stay on this and keep up, constant reporting on them. And, some of the work's seasonal, but anything that's, the major work here that's not completed relates to the building committee. Our aim, just so you know, and this is something Mike DeMastro and I have fully agreed on, and Phil Cross and I haven't discussed this fully yet, but our aim is to bring to the building committee in November, after board approval, through the facility committee process, what is the recommended capital list for the coming year. and begin to work with the building committee in November as opposed to later, what is possible. There was a process set up where the first selectman, the BOE chair, and the Board of Finance chair would then, from that list, determine the Board of Ed approved list, still preliminary because I haven't gone through the whole budget process, but a list that you all feel comfortable with for capital projects would then determine which of these are under the direction of the building committee, which ones would remain with the Board of Ed. But to try and do that as early as November so that we can, not be sitting in May, June, July, working with the building committee on work to get done. Because if you look at, we threaded the needle on the Hurlbut boiler project, but there were delays in May in that larger process, not delays here, frankly, but delays in larger process that pushed us up against it. We want to avoid that. So do everything we can to be saying, we're really working to bring you everything you need. So that's a long answer related in part because some of these pieces, if they're not done yet, are going to roll over right back to the building committee for that November list, meaning we didn't get them done now. Does that bump out work we anticipated for FY 2021 or not, if I'm being clear?
Yep. Great job by the team. Thank you. Next up, we have policies, a couple that are up for second reads. If we have any questions, I'm just wondering if we should table those until Lewis is back in case there are any questions. Just
Yeah, we have a double gap. I mean, I can fill in, but both Lewis and the former chair of that committee are not here, i.e. Dan McNeil. So it's fairly straightforward, but if you, as a board, you feel more comfortable pushing those into a September
I'm just wondering.
vote, that's, I think, perfectly fine. I think there's not anything here
I mean, is
that,
there anything earth-shattering that we absolutely need to move on?
I think we're fine. Most of this work are things we're already in a good position on. All of the language here is advised language
No, I know.
from Shipman and Goodwin. But again, if you have rather a comfort level of taking, you can vote for it knowing it's been fully vetted by your committee. It's a second read under the guidance of Shipman Goodwin policies. If you'd rather, though, say, let us take one more look at it. Lewis likely would not be here for that September meeting, but between now and then, the sitting chair for the committee could get up to speed on what these are.
Yeah,
Because it's often worked very well to have the chair of that committee very actively presenting on what the proposed policy. And I think you're going to, Melissa, be that chair, correct?
That's correct. And
So
I
if-
remember these policies. I
so
think.
maybe
you're
you
ready to
can-
go?
I mean, I remember them, yeah.
Okay, so let's do it.
We discussed them, I think Ruby.
We
was
did.
on the
So
committee
So let's
as
do
well.
it. I just wanted to give you guys a chance to, if you felt like you read something, you need some clarification, but if
No,
you're
we
ready
had
to go,
good,
let's go.
robust discussion
We did.
on these. I
Okay,
remember them.
awesome, all right. So the first is a second reading of policy 4113.3, background checks.
And so my understanding is that the majority of the changes in here are required by Connecticut state law.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
That's correct.
All right, can I have a motion, please?
Move that the board approve the second reading of policy 4113.3, background checks.
May I have a second? Thank you, Ruby. Any further questions or commentary? And again, for any public who may be watching or who may not have attended a meeting, when we have policies come through, process is they will come through the policy committee for a month of discussion and work with our internal counsel, and they will be appearing in a monthly meeting here for the full board for a first read. If there are significant questions, it may go back to committee. If there are not major questions or just minor edits, it will come back to the board for a second reading. So by the time it reaches this point where we're considering a vote, it has already been through multiple levels of review and discussion. With that, is there any further comments or discussions regarding this? All right, all in favor? Great, thank you. Plan for minority staff recruiting.
I just want to say this was a really interesting discussion we had. It wasn't around this particular point and some of the new requirements and ways that we brainstormed in that meeting around recruiting minority staff, and some of the ideas that came to the floor were very interesting and quite exciting, actually. I was pleased with that discussion.
Could I have a motion, please?
Anybody else?
Board of
want-
Education move to approve the second reading of policy 4111.1, Plan for Minority Staff Recruitment.
May I have a second? Thank you, Taffy. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. And this one is the second reading for the policy and administrative regulation for reports of suspected child abuse and neglect. Melissa, Ruby, Taffy?
Yeah, these were minor changes as well, which we discussed thoroughly at the committee level.
Great. May I have a motion, please?
Sure. Move that the Board of Education approve the second reading of policy and administrative regulation 4118.25/5141.4, reports of suspected child abuse and neglect.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Ruby. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you. And with that, we are with you, Dr. McCursey, for our district update.
Okay, and as I had promised the chair and the vice chair on Monday, I would give an extra long superintendent's report because school starts tomorrow and we have an abbreviated meeting and all the anxious parents are wanting to get home, so I thought I'd talk that much longer. I will be efficient. At the board retreat, there were 3 procedural changes to how we run our meetings, which that group endorsed, so I'm hoping and assuming the full board will endorse. It's a consensus type of thing, not a vote. But the recognitions that the board provides and gives out, I think, are very, very important. The thought, though, this year was we might raise up to focus on those by having 2 gatherings, semi-annual gatherings, still truly a board meeting at the high school auditorium, focused on, for that first half-year recognition, so roughly December. We haven't set the date yet. When Meredith is back, I'll let her work that magic. And then one roughly May, June, probably June. Yes, a board gathering, you would be officiating and all the rest, but at the high school auditorium and gathering of all the various recognitions that have earned that board level. And to try that this year, I like that idea. I can't remember which board member came from, I'm sorry, but I like that idea because it really celebrates and focuses as opposed to kind of rushing through it. It then lets your meetings get a bit more time or be a bit more focused on the work, and I think it's a win-win. So we would try that out this year.
I think it's a great idea, Bill. I know you weren't asking for our feedback, but I was not at the retreat,
Yeah.
so I just want to say I think it's a great idea. And also just wondered whether, is this televised also as a public meeting, or because the board's all present, or is it just an awards, recognition?
Well, it would be a board meeting. I think it's important to consider it a board meeting, and
Yeah,
we can
so-
work with Lewis on the technicalities, but I think we definitely should.
Just
That would
just
be great.
thinking about folks that
Yes.
currently tune in for these
Yes.
normally, they can still tune in.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think there'll be good communication material there, good celebratory material, so I would say yes. I don't know if there are other comments or thoughts on that one. I'll move to the other 2 procedural. One is we're moving next September. This September's meeting, we're moving from the 16th to the 23rd. That's a smart scheduling move anyway. Take a little bit of the early start of the year pressure off us, and that's a shift. We're taking care of that. I think you may already have gotten the notifications. Though I actually think you have to vote on that.
Oh, yeah, we
I think you have, so would, if there could be a motion from the motion maker that the September 16th, 2019 Board of Ed meeting would be moved to the 23rd of September.
Move that the Board of Education approve the movement of its September 16th, 2019 board meeting to September 23rd, 2019.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm typing, guys. I don't have my cheat sheet today.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we will,
It's all good.
we'll do better.
We'll adapt. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The next change is, doesn't require a vote, but we're going to have, and this was the sense of the work, of the retreat, was to have the October 7th workshop, move that to the morning, 9 to 11, and have it focused on budget matters. The Finance Committee also talked about this, endorsed the idea. The agenda would be for the full board a review, and it's a public meeting, but a review of the process for the building and adoption of the FY19 budget, looking at ideas for FY20. We would bring in, and it's only be about a week into Phil's tenure, but be bringing in some likely growth numbers. We already have a rough sense of that, to begin to get your appetite as a board for those numbers, broadly defined, because we actually do take a multi-year look here, so we understand from a multi-year standpoint what we're facing. To bring those numbers in, just so you begin to get an appetite, and then talk about, if we're having to bring possible reductions to you as a board, how do we go through that communication process? Because all that work has to get done in public. It can't get done privately. It can't get done through serial meetings. It has to be done in public. And I think it'd be good to, as early as October 7th, be working through ideas on that, either from other boards, things that Mr. Cross may identify as a way to look at that. We also will be modeling in the new budget, the F21 recommended budget. We'll be modeling, not the whole book, but a multi-year look, a piece of that, to take a look at that. As I interviewed all those who were brought to you as the finalists for the seat that Phil won, very few districts go into an intensive, full 500-600 page multi-year, but they can have pieces of that in there. So we're going to model that for sure as portions of that in the FY21 budget. So that workshop will be a way to grapple with that a little bit. I don't know, Rich, if there's anything else in that workshop, though. You won't be there, do not worry, sir. Was there anything else in that workshop that we talked about wanting to hit? So that would be then, okay. Last two items would be, the principals are not here because we do open tomorrow, and I wanted their energies to be in the right place. Sorry, take that with all due respect, but we want things to open up well, and our student representatives will join us starting in September. At that meeting, we again will have two high school representatives sitting with us, sitting with you as non-voting members of the board. So that is the update.
I'm going to throw you a curveball, Bill.
Okay.
Not on a regular basis in any way, shape, or form, but could we every once in a while have middle school students present to us if they have something special going on? I just think it's a unique experience, and if we have a unique, nothing regular, nothing standing, no pressure, but if there's something unique going on, I think it would be a nice opportunity for some of our middle school leaders, because we have some phenomenal kids in this building, and for the right opportunity,
Sure.
a chance for them to present to us, I think would be lovely.
Okay. Great.
Bill, just also a question or maybe a comment. I'm hoping that at that workshop also we could further discuss the notion, and I know you said tweak and think about process. Maybe this will be the place to think about multi-year budgets in future. So hopefully we can have some discussions about that at that workshop.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I probably talked too much, and like Rich talked really, really fast, but that was, that's part of it. Yeah, I mean, that's something we've been looking at, so we definitely can, and give some examples of how that's worked. So we can, for sure. Sorry for the humor, Rich, but we don't get any more chances, so.
We are going to forego committee reports this evening because everybody's just now getting ready to start ramping up. Everybody has their new assignments. Admins, you know who your new chairs are. Look forward to the great teamwork we have going forward this year. And with that, do you want to review pending items quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the September, what I was sort of doing that in a different way, but what we've got with the change in the date for the September meeting, but the real substantive one will be the October workshop. Before you in September, just to give you that heads up, is you will have an update from me on the school start end time task force. So we'll need to be busy on that. The recognitions, gifts we'll keep in the meetings. We'll keep recognition and gifts, but not the other recognitions. So the main substantive piece will be the update on school start time and task force, just a rough outline of the work plan, not the actual findings. That's not till December, January.
Right.
And we'll be trying to do fairly monthly updates for you on that.
Good.
And we will be back as of September to your monthly principal reports.
Okay, excellent.
Gina, would you mind, for the public's benefit, just discussing who the committee chairs are on the whole board? Did that go out publicly?
They are updating the website right now with all the committee members and all the committee assignments, so it will be updated
It may be up
shortly.
there now.
Yeah,
Jen-
but we
Jen
can.
was working on it today.
Yeah, it may just
Yeah.
be worth it for the record
Well, we
putting
can
it
run
out
through
there
it.
since you alluded to it.
Tony Pesco is chairing finance, and serving on that committee is Ruby and myself. Taffy, you are chairing curriculum, and you are joined by Tony and Ellen. Melissa is chairing policy, and she's joined by Hillary and Taffy. Make sure I'm keeping everybody straight off the top of my head. Ellen is chairing facilities, and she is joined by Tony and Ruby. And communications is chaired by Ruby, and she's joined by Hillary and Taffy.
And negotiations.
And then negotiations are Melissa, Ellen, and myself, and we had a very busy August, and we have a busy September coming up. And then our CES rep is Melissa, and our CABE rep is Hillary, and Ruby is continuing on as our WEF liaison. So.
And those are all up on the web now.
Oh,
It's
perfect.
current.
I knew it was in process.
So we
but-
didn't get your motions, we got this update.
Oh, thank you. You don't understand how much thought goes into trying to do it. It kind of gets ingrained in your mind.
It's a
once
Rubik's
you-
Cube.
Dr. McCursey, I have one recommendation also for the October 4th, is we have so many other outside partners during the financial process, the budget process, i.e. the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. I would love to hear feedback from a hindsighting perspective for them as well on what maybe we could do differently, or if they would like to see the information in a different way, just so that the working relationship is smooth and you know, all business partners are seeing what they want to see at the right time.
Okay, yep.
Mhm. Anything else, board? All right, well, Bill and team, fabulous work over the summer. I don't know that people truly appreciate the extreme amount of work that happens over the summer to get this district ready to open up to welcome our almost 2,300 students. But job well done, and I know I'm going to be a happy mom tomorrow putting 3 kids on that bus. Thank you for your work over the summer, and I can't wait to hear how the first day goes for everyone.
Well, let me say one thing, that it's been truly 24/7 the last couple of weeks for people. So we're learning about dialectical thinking, which is you can hold 2 truths in one place. We're doing the best we can, excuse me, and we will do better. But I mean, the team, particularly some gentlemen over here, have been going truly 24/7 for a couple of weeks. I think last night I had a 10 p.m. text email from a certain Craig Tunks, and Saturday morning had that, and so there are a number of people working. And I know the board's asked about, particularly in transitions, that people really stepping up. But we're going to work hard, and my main hope is everything runs smoothly tomorrow.
All right, excellent. All right,
Have fun.
with that, could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
When in doubt.